One of the worst feelings is being sick and alone in a foreign country. Unfortunately, that has been my reality many a times since I started solo traveling at only 15 years old. And something that I have definitely learned in that time is that prevention is the best protection. Having consistent healthy habits, whether you are at home or on the road, is incredibly important to preserving your health. Of course, when you are traveling, it is much more difficult to have that continuity of having access to the same foods you're used to, good places to work out, getting enough sleep with changing time zones. It all does become a lot more challenging. But having been a full-time traveler for the last 4 years, there are some things that I always make sure to have with me that I usually bring from home that make the chances of getting sick abroad much less likely. Well, hello friends. I am coming to you from Toronto. Very good to be back. I thought I would do this sit-down video in a beautiful green space instead of just, my room, because health when traveling is definitely a topic that I have wanted to cover for quite some time. I have had quite a few very unfortunate experiences where I have been alone in a foreign country, extremely sick. I've landed in the hospital. So in today's video, I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that I take quite seriously to keep up my health when I am abroad and just lessen the possibility of something bad happening. So the top thing that I always try and have on hand, and it really can't be emphasized enough, is my own first aid kit. This may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people just assume all the things that we have in Canada, the US, wherever you're from, that they have abroad. That is definitely not the case, so that's why I always like to pack my own painkillers like Advil, Tylenol, aspirin, whatever works for you. I always have something against an upset stomach. And now, after the past few years of experiences, I am packing something for motion sickness because that has taken me out a couple of times now really bad. And then other basics like bandages, polysporin, some kind of wrap if you sprain your knee or anything like that. I like having those sorts of things on hand. Now the second thing that I have on my list is a little bit less obvious, and that I wouldn't think most people take with them when they're traveling, and that is bug spray. I think a lot of people don't realize just how many countries do have issues with malaria, yellow fever, dengue fever. Some places are so serious that you do need a vaccine in the case of yellow fever, or malaria pills if you're going somewhere where it's, really bad. For most destinations that have any sort of mosquitoes or other scary bugs, I would highly recommend bringing a really good bug spray from home. Because the thing is, the kinds that they sell abroad aren't always as strong as the ones that we have here, and it's just not as prevalent as a product, unfortunately. Sometimes in the places that really need these things, they don't even have access to. So just to be on the safe side, I always bring my own bug spray from home. Obviously, I do other things like wearing long, loose clothing that covers you, not being out too late at night when mosquitoes are more active, and also just being careful and doing the research about the kind of places that I'm going to be visiting. Now, my third tip for staying healthy while traveling abroad is taking a high quality vitamin. You guys have seen me many a times in certain circumstances where there's just not, a lot of food available, sometimes very remote places, sometimes on transportation, and just in certain countries they don't have the variety of foods that we have here in North America. So I personally like to take a full spectrum multivitamin to kind of fill in those gaps. And a great vitamin that I would definitely recommend is actually today's sponsor, which is Ritual. Ritual offers a lot of different health products, but I am currently taking their Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin. This is a clinically backed multivitamin that has USP verification, which basically means that what they say is on the bottle is actually in the bottle. Ritual vitamins are also vegan-friendly, non-GMO project verified, gluten-free, and allergen-free. So as someone who travels a lot and doesn't know what kind of access they're going to have to certain types of foods, I really like to take a high quality vitamin to fill in those gaps and really support my foundational health. So if you want a ritual that you can feel good about, they are currently having a great promotion where you can get 30% off of your first month. You just use my code, Alina Mcleod 30. There's a QR code that you can scan right here on the screen. And then in the description, you can also click the link ritual.com/Alina Mcleod 30, and that will take you to the promotion directly. Now, the fourth tip to stay healthy when traveling abroad, and this one is also very important, is to have a water filtration device or to drink bottled water depending on your situation, but basically to just know if the water in the location that you're going to is safe. I was actually very naive when I was a younger traveler and thought you could just drink the tap water anywhere. Obviously, that is not the case. You can get extremely sick from contaminated water and is usually one of the top reasons of why people end up getting sick or getting parasites or something even scarier. But in all scenarios, I still actually recommend getting, some kind of water filtration device. I think the one in the past that I used was called Life Straw. It's like $20 on Amazon or something, like just something that you can have on you that even when, let's say, you're hiking, if you ran out of water, you could actually use this device to fill up, on lake water or something like that and have it be drinkable, for the time being. Now, tip number 5 is only going to apply to a very specific group of people, but I feel it's really important to mention because I had a big problem with this my past trip, and that is to make sure that you bring enough contact lenses with you when you're traveling. I didn't know that it would give me so many problems to use the same brand of contact lenses with overall my same prescription. I'm -2 in both eyes, but a wrong base curve. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's just like how curved the contact lens is, and usually here in North America, the most common kind that you find is 8.4, but in Asia, because their eyes, are a slightly different shape, the most common kind of base curve there is 8.8. So what that means is that it's a little bit flatter, but I thought that because it's a, soft contact lens and I would really only be using this prescription for, a couple of months, it would be no problem. Boy, was I wrong. I had so many problems with wearing contact lenses when I was abroad for basically like the second half of my trip. I had so much pain when I would put in my contact lenses after like 30 minutes of wearing them. I felt like my eyelid or something was inflamed and it was just super uncomfortable. And it wasn't until that I got to an optometrist here in Canada that, we went through all my usage history of what it could be. She did a whole examination. And the conclusion that she came to was just the fact that I was wearing the wrong base curve for a prolonged amount of time. So just keep that in mind, that when traveling and, usually for a longer period of time, you may not have access to the same contact lens brands when you are abroad, and they may not be able to do your exact prescription. So just try and bring as many pairs as you can from home. And number 6, a little bit more fun, not as serious, but just as important, which for me is my yoga mat. Yes, it may seem excessive to take up a good, chunk of my suitcase and a good 3 pounds of extra weight to bring a whole yoga mat with you. And I'm not even talking about like the cheap, thin kinds. Like I'm talking about a premium, like amazing quality, $150 yoga mat that I bought in Vietnam. I actually bought this like really famous Australian brand, Binks or something like that. I'll put it here or whatever. I can't remember the name of the mat I bought, but it's literally the best mat I have ever used. I did not plan on spending that much money on one, but when I tested it out, I was like, dear God, this is the best yoga mat that I have ever used, especially if you're traveling for quite a long time. It really affects your health if you're not being active in the way that you would like, if you're not stretching your muscles. So for me, bringing along my yoga mat has been invaluable. Now, number 7 on our list is sunscreen. Now, this one may seem obvious, but also can't be underestimated, especially as a super white person that has looked like a lobster. Many a times, unfortunately. Skin cancer is the worst case scenario, but even just having a burn on your body is obviously incredibly painful. The damage that it does to your skin, faster aging, really not good for your health. And also because for whatever reason, at least in Southeast Asia, sunscreens are insanely expensive there. In some places, especially the Philippines, I remember, it would be like twice the price of what it is here. So if you can, I would personally recommend bringing sunscreen, just the same as bug spray from home, because I feel we do have more variety here and it is also less expensive. And number 8 on our list is having hand sanitizer and wet wipes. This may be an obvious thing to bring for all countries, but I was just surprised that in countries like Japan, there are so many washrooms where they don't offer soap. And I really don't understand why. Like, obviously, if you are in a really fancy place, they will have it. But in a good portion of Japan's just public restrooms, and they are everywhere, which is nice, but they don't have soap. People literally carry around their own soap and also something to wipe their hands with. It's very strange. So that's why personally I have gotten into the habit of always having a hand sanitizer, but preferably actually hand wipes, because I don't like the stickiness of most hand sanitizer. So I personally like to carry wet wipes. And number 9 is earplugs and an eye mask. One of the top reasons that I will get sick is if I don't sleep enough and if I am overworked. Sleep is insanely important to our health, and it's always much harder to adjust to, a new place's circadian rhythms when you have jet lag, if you have the unfortunate experience, as I did for many years, to have to perpetually be in hostels and deal with noise and light. It just makes getting a good night's sleep a lot harder. So when I travel, I bring the heavy duty stuff. Like, I don't just bring like cheap stuff from the drugstore. I bring the clinical products. Like, I have, my high duty sleep mask, which is from Manta. And then I also have these hardcore earplugs. I have tested so many different kinds. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but I'll put the name and the Amazon picture or something on here. They're the yellow and pink ones. Those are the best earplugs that I have found so far. I order a pack of 200 to keep at home, and I'll take at least 50 to 100 with me when I go on a trip, because it is imperative to me to get a good night's sleep. And last but certainly not least, this may be one of the most important things on this list, which is to get health insurance. Because even if you do everything right, accidents can happen. Things out of your control happen, and you don't want to be in a position where you are in the hospital, not having coverage, and out of pocket it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. I haven't used my health insurance on a lot of different instances, but I have 2 significant ones that definitely added up to a lot of money. One was in Japan, where I was super sick. I thought it was the flu, so that was the first appointment. Then I had another appointment when I wasn't better. We found out it was pneumonia. Then I also had an overnight stay at the hospital when I was in India. I went to a really nice, private hospital because I was in very, very bad condition. Luckily, I had insurance. Everything was covered. So I really can't emphasize enough how important this point is, because you really don't want to put yourself in a position where you are abroad needing emergency care and it's going to be tens of thousands of dollars. So that is it, my friends. Those are the top 10 things that I definitely make sure I don't leave home without before I am going on a trip, to make sure I stay healthy and to just feel good. These are all basic things that we should be using while we're here at home as well, but especially if you're going to a foreign country, I highly recommend making sure you have everything that I had on this list. But let me know what things work for you guys. Let me know in the comments what are the things that have really helped you out when you were traveling abroad, because I'm sure there's many other products that would be extremely helpful. Once again, I want to say a very big thank you to Ritual for sponsoring today's video. I'm going to have the QR code here on the screen so you can get that 30% off promotion that is going on right now, or you can click the link in the description. I will have everything down below. And as always, I'm sending you guys so much love. Thank you so much for tuning in, and keep being your own kind of beautiful. Bye, guys.